Okay, guys. Well, look, welcome to another Tuesday live training here at the One Source Personal Development Network. And today we're going to get into a couple things. What are we going to get into today? First, what I want to do is I want to spend a bit of time talking about your role as a consultant. Um, just to give you an overall of what's I suppose, what's expected when you're working with a client. Because I know people get impressions that, they're supposed to know all the answers and they're supposed to be experts in their field. And while, yeah, we expect you to improve over a period of time, that's part of the reason why you continue to use the system. But there's certain things that you're expected and certain things that you're not expected to know. So I want to spend a little bit of time there today. Um, and I also want to talk to you about the approach that we use when we're working with clients. You see, myself personally, I refer to it as a common sense, personal development, a common sense approach. I do not like to overcomplicate things. I think that's part of the problem when people get into a position of either coaching or consulting or training, that they always want to be trying to, I guess, set themselves up on a pedestal where they're an expert, and that they maybe know a little bit more, and they make it a little bit more challenging to kind of show how much that knowledge that they actually have. But to me, I like to keep things simple. I find that the most effective way, and it's always been one of my skill sets. Everybody's got their strengths and their weaknesses, but one of my skills has always been to identify and simplify different strategies and systems to produce results. So, as far as let's start off with what's your role? What's expected of you when you're working with a client? Well, it's really nothing more than what you see there. We expect you to support, give advice when you can, never just give advice for the sake of giving advice. If you know what you're talking about and you have something of value to contribute, that's when you give advice. You're there to give assistance, help them, support them again, but also guide them through the system. It's all about the system. Focus, balance, purpose, blended in with that neuroassociative conditioning that we're using. And you're obviously there to help them. But the single most important thing that you're there to do for them, and it's the most valuable thing that you can do when working with any client, is hold them accountable. Okay? You're not there to set their standards. You're not there to tell them what to do. You're going to educate them. You're going to support them as they're creating their system. But once they set the standards, once they set those monthly goals, the most valuable thing that you can do as a consultant in a professional way is hold that individual accountable. That's what's going to produce the results. I work with a lot of individuals, and I've gotten so much feedback at this stage, and it's always stands out. The most valuable thing that I do as a consultant is I hold people accountable. I don't set the goals for them. I don't tell them what they need to achieve. I let them decide for themselves. But once they commit and they set that goal, well, then it's up to me to go ahead and monitor the dashboard, meet with them on a weekly basis, and hold them accountable if they're not taking the actions that they set up for themselves. Okay, so that's it. Basically, that's it, guys. Obviously, there's other things that you need to be doing, but I always like I say, I don't ever want anybody stressing or worrying that, oh, there's so much I need to be able to learn here, and I've got to be an expert in this, and I've got to be walking the walk, and I've got to know all about, the different techniques with neuroassociative conditioning, and I've got to know all the expert advice about personal development. You'll get that over time. You're coming to the trainings or you're watching the trainings, whichever the case may be. You're always improving your skills. You're using the system. You're improving, inch by inch, day by day. You're improving. So you're acquiring a lot of the tools and the skills you need. But just remember, that's all that's all that I expect. That's all that's expected of you. And that's all a client really should expect as well. So don't ever get caught up with thinking it's really much more than that, guys. But you see, we all get nervous, and we all from time to time, well, we start assuming that we can't do things. So, everybody's better than I am. Everybody, their finances are in better shape than mine. They're healthier than I am. They have a lot more knowledge than I have. And you start to basically, start to panic. And we all know about the imposter syndrome. Steve did a great job there a while back, did a training for us. Steve is our master NLP practitioner. He did a great job. He really did, specifically on this topic. So I'm not going to get into it now, obviously. I would encourage you to go back and watch the training session. If you've seen it, you should go back and watch it again, because there's a lot of good information in there specifically about dealing with the imposter syndrome. And if you haven't seen it, for whatever reason, I really encourage you to go and do that. It's inside your members only area. Just look up the imposter syndrome. You'll have no problem finding it. But again, we all suffer from that. And it kind of puts us in a position where sometimes we can act as posers. We can pretend to be people that we're really not. But that's part of the biggest thing I want to make sure that I really try to instill in this training today. I don't ever want anybody to be afraid to just being who they are. You all here are here for a reason. I don't want you feeling that you're not enough, or you have to do more, or you have to, have higher standards. That's really not what it's about, guys. No, you've basically received a calling. There's a reason that you're here. You're all here. You're not here because you want to earn money. That's a byproduct of what we do. You're here primarily because what you want to do is you believe you have some type of calling to help people. So again, you're perfect the way you are. You're going to improve over a period of time. So don't ever forget that. I really want to emphasize that point because it's important to me. I want this network to be a place that people come to that primarily they feel comfortable, they feel confident, they don't feel inferior to anybody. That's a big thing with me. I never want to see that being the case. And everybody's doing the best they can at the end of the day, and that's all I expect. But as far as I want you to be honest, as far as who you are when you're dealing with clients. Like for an example, if when you started, if you were broke, don't be afraid to tell people. Look, when I started, I was broke, or I was in serious financial trouble, but I'm improving because I'm using this system. I'm working on it every day. I'm taking the actions. But don't pretend to be some financial success if you're not, because it's not expected. If, like me, when you started, if you had some health challenges, I probably should have picked a better picture. Fat's not a nice word, but I can tell you I was fat when I started this. I was definitely fat. And if you have some health challenges, whether it be a weight issue or whatever the case, it doesn't matter. Call it for what it is. But you're improving. Don't try to be, try to give the impression that you're healthier or you're fitter or, you're achieving all these health goals that you're really not. Be honest with people. I've been doing this system now for a period of time. When I started, I was here. I've lost this much weight now, or I've improved my fitness level by this much, or I've quit these negative habits. I did this, I did that. Working on it every day. That's all you're expected to do. Just be honest, but let people know where you were and what you're doing to improve it. Again, that's why it's so important that everybody is using the system. If you're having, some type of relationship problems, rather it be whatever the case may be, you're divorced, you're getting divorced, you're split up, you're whatever, none of it matters. Nobody's expected here to be, a relationship expert and everything is perfect at home. That's not what it's about. Call it for what it is. Again, you could talk about, like I talk a lot about when I first started, the health problems I had, the relationship problems I had, you know, everything. Because again, that's that's how we learned. And you don't ever try to present yourself as something that you're not. But what you need to do is when you're doing it, talk about what you've learned. Like my story, when I talk primarily, I'll say, when I first started, oh God, I had these terrible health challenges. My relationships were this was that. But I learned along the way and I took actions. And over a period of time, things improved, got me to a different level, which got me to another level and got me to a level higher than that over a period of time. But again, I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with that. That you're not expected to be anything that you're not. You need to start from where you're at, use what you have, and do what you can. It's as simple as that. And we all have things that, well, some people could see as a negative, and others can see as a positive, depending on how you use it. If you're having some challenges, well, now you have experience. You can talk about that. I can tell you one that I use all the time still, and I use it to my advantage. In a lot of areas, like my age, I'm definitely the oldest one in this room, but I'm probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest, in the network. And a lot of people could see that as, oh, he's out of touch, he's old school, he's this, he's that, and that's fine. But I tell you what I do all the time. I never make up things that I don't know. But if I'm working with somebody who's more successful than me in any area, I'll say, well, look, I'm no expert on health, but I have learned a few things because I am older and I've learned a lot along the way from bad choices that I made in my younger day. Or I'm no expert in the area of finance. I'm not a wealth coach. I'm not a financial expert by any stretch of the imagination. But the truth be told, I have learned a lot along the way, not because I'm any smarter than you. I've just been around a lot longer than you and I've learned from my mistakes. But again, that's something that, I try to use, but we all have it. So those are the things you need to look at. Those are the things you need to talk about. Those are the things you need to focus on when the opportunity presents itself. But the main thing is you all have a tool. You have a system, a common sense approach to personal development, a system based around focus, balance, purpose, and neuroassociative conditioning. That's what it's about. You're not expected any way, shape, or form to be, like I say, an expert yourself personally, but it's all about the system. You're not the one that's going to produce the results. You're going to help them, you're going to guide them, you're going to support them, you're going to hold them accountable, but they're going to do the work, and the system is going to show them how, and the system's going to step them through it, how to do it. So I myself, I'm, like I said at the very beginning, I'm a big, big fan of common sense. I mean, I really do try to, I'm I'm never the brightest one in the room, and I never pretend to be. But I do like to think that maybe it is because of my age, but I do have a certain element of common sense that I tend to use to my advantage. And I always like to simplify everything that I do. And when it comes to finances, managing personal finances, I always like to use a common sense approach. I use a common sense approach to everything, to relationships, to health, to growth. But truthfully, those are ones that I find most people tend to figure out pretty quickly. We all kind of know what to do to improve our relationships or our health, or we all know the things that we're interested in that we want to grow and become more skilled or improve on. But a lot of people, for whatever reason, they really struggle with the area of the personal finances. And so many consultants that I've worked with, I find that when they get to this part, when they're trying to go ahead and work with somebody, they kind of panic because they really don't know how to advise on finances because it's look, everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses. Some people, when it comes to money, when it comes to numbers or anything else, they just they're kind of clueless. They just don't have the skills. And I get that. But I want to provide you, like I say, a simple format that you can always try to keep in mind when working first off with yourself, second, when you're working with clients. So we all know that the way we do it is in our system, we got four key areas. You have your relationships, you have your health, you have your growth, and you have your finances. Okay. And in those four key areas, you also have four subcategories, minimum, but generally four. So let's focus on finances, okay? Because that's really the one that I want to kind of give you the tool that you can use when you're working again with yourself and when you're working with others. And we're going to use, like I say, a common sense approach. So the first one of the subcategories, because remember we got four subcategories, but the number one I always encourage people to do is focus on your money in, your money that's coming in, your income basically. Okay? So, and what do we need to do when we talk about focusing about with your money in? Well, I always encourage people, common sense approach, well, you need to maximize it. You need to be focusing in every single day. What can I do to improve or increase the amount of money that I have coming in? And that doesn't mean that every day I have to earn more money than I earned yesterday. That's not what it's about. But there's things you can be doing to ensure that down the road you're going to earn more money, you're going to increase that money coming in. You're not always going to see immediate results, but you can always be taking immediate action to maximize that money coming in. So for an example, it all starts with your income. Okay, the income is primarily, we all have some form of cash flow or revenue that's being generated that comes into us that allows us to puts us in a position to pay the bills, to maintain our current lifestyle, and to do the things that we want to do. But when it comes to the income, well, it doesn't really matter what you refer to it as or what it is, what shape it's in. It could be your business if you're self-employed. It could be your job if you're an employee. It could be your career, if that's what you refer to it as. You're kind of just moving up the ladder in the corporate life. Could be some side hustle that you have, or it could be all of the above or a combination of several of these. It doesn't matter. But whatever you're doing to bring that money in, are you really giving 100%? Like, I often talk to people and I tell them that what I encourage you to do under your money in, if you're an employee, put down your job, put down your career, put down whatever the case your current position is, and that they still say something similar to, but I'm going to give myself a quarter point every day just for going to work. And I always say the same thing. No, you don't get the quarter point for going to work, showing up for the job. You get the quarter point for giving 100% on the job. So at the end of the day, when you're evaluating, did I work was I productive today? Was I organized today? Was I effective today on the job? Did I do everything that was expected of me within reason? Did I give 100% to my role in the company, on the job, whatever the case may be today? Because again, you're not going to see an increase in pay on this next week, but you're improving your skills. You're increasing your value to the company, and more importantly, to the marketplace. And that's what's going to increase your earnings. Should you decide down the road, if you decide to stay in that job or move on to another job, that's what's going to increase your income. If it's a business, okay, you have a business, but did you really devote 100% of your energy during the workday today to really doing whatever you could to improve that business, to take that business to the next level? And again, you're not going to see the results day in, day out, but those results are compounding. And over a period of time, I can guarantee you're going to see the results. So if you make sure that the first one is your income, your money coming in, and you're basically working and focusing, and this is what you got to be explaining when you're working with clients, that they're actually working and giving 100% to whatever their current source of revenue is, day in, day out. That's how they should get that first quarter point or that first star. Then I also get people to say, well, what if I'm unemployed? And that happens. You'll start working with a client, and at that particular point in time, they might not have a job. Okay, so what are you doing to generate an income? Are you creating a business? Are you working on that every day? Are you looking for a job every day? Are you out there actively devoting whatever amount of hours that you feel you should be doing? Are you doing it? Are you really researching? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you updating your profile? Are you on all the just different job sites? Are you submitting your CVs? Whatever the case may be, but are you actively taking the action? If you're building a business, are you working on it every day? Again, you're not going to see the results overnight, but these are the things that are going to improve your money coming in, that first subcategory. Or I often get people that'll say, well, I don't work because I don't need to. My spouse, my partner, my significant other, whatever the case may be, well, they're the breadwinner. I don't work. Okay, but are you really supporting that individual? Are you supporting because are you keeping the best home that you can, or whatever? I'm not here just talk about roles and responsibilities within the house, but are you doing what you can to support your partner if that individual is the breadwinner? Are you doing everything that you can to ensure that they can do everything that they can to go ahead and increase that amount of money coming into the house. That should be the first step under that first subcategory. The next one, if money in is number one, money out. And when it comes to money out, well, what do you need to do? You need to make sure that you minimize the amount of money going out. Again, common sense. If you maximize the amount of money coming in and you minimize the amount of money going out, well, it only stands to reason your finances are going to improve. You're going to get stronger. You're going to get healthier. Again, common sense approach, but unfortunately, common sense is not too common these days. So sometimes you need to spell these things out when you're working with a client, because I work with some clients and they're clueless, or they really don't know what to put down in these areas. And that's your role. Remember, we talked about your role at the very beginning, to support, the individual. This is a form of support. You have to be able to give them good advice. Again, you don't have to have all the answers, but you have these answers. And these are ones that are easy to implement. So the first one is money in and you want to maximize. The second one is money out and you want to minimize. And some examples of what they should be doing to ensure that they minimize that money going out. Well, have they created a budget? And not just created it, do they stick to it? That's what you hold them accountable. Have them create that budget. Make sure that, they're sticking to it. And if they're not, call them out on it. Hold them accountable. Are they tracking literally every penny? I don't care if you go out and you purchase whatever, a €1.50 or £1.50, whatever it is for a pack of chewing gum. I don't know I haven't bought a pack of chewing gum in many years, but whatever the case may be. But whatever you spend money on, are you tracking it? So if you're not going to be able to stick to your budget, if you're not tracking literally every penny that's going out. Well, remember awareness. We talk about awareness all the time within the system here. Awareness is oftentimes the cure. Just being aware of where that money is going. That's going to help you to minimize that money going out. Are you really shopping around, or are they really shopping around? When they do have to make a purchase, they're getting the best price. They're doing research, they're on the internet, they're using coupons, whatever the case may be, to go ahead and reduce that amount of money that's going out. Are you going to the best supermarket to buy your groceries, and are you stocking up on the best things, or are you just running down to the local shop because it's more convenient, even though it costs 35%, 40% more, whatever the item that you're buying there? Again, are you getting the best price? Are you managing effectively, minimizing the money going out? So number one is in, number two is out. You're going to maximize in, minimize out. Then, at that stage, if you've done an effective job and you truly have maximized the amount of money coming in, minimize the amount of money going out, which always stands common sense knowledge that you're going to have money to save. So often I talk to people and they tell me, I don't save anything. I don't have anything I can save. I think we all know what that is. That's an excuse. There's always money that can be saved if you look hard enough. And if there's not, well, you better make sure you start maximizing that money coming in and minimizing every penny that's going out. But if you've done an effective job, if they've done an effective job, there should be some money now to start saving. And I don't care how small of an amount it is. you need to go ahead and you need to effectively save that money. So, there's Ben Franklin, and he's an American, long gone, one of the founders of our great nation, my great nation. But said a penny saved is a penny earned. Again, common sense. It's the truth. If you can save a little bit of money, it's the same as as actually going out and earning that money. That money stays with you, and that's what it's all about. That's what we're trying to get to. So, one thing I always encourage people to do, and this goes back to your purpose statement to a degree, it can be kind of disheartening sometimes to save money because you feel as if, well, I'm depriving myself on certain things. But if you focus on the reasons why you're saving money, I want to, put my child to school. I want to, whatever, provide security for myself. I want to feel stronger. I want it, whatever the case may be. Come up with a list of reasons and continuously say them to yourself. So when you're not spending that money that you used to waste, you don't feel deprived. You feel encouraged. That's really your attitude about money is so critical, guys. But again, it's easy to get caught up. It's easy to go ahead and let emotions take control. But get some leverage. This is a form of, again, like your purpose statement. Get leverage on yourself by seeing the bigger picture. But simple things. And I know not everybody here smokes, but I know there are people that probably do it. I know there's people who are listening to this that smoke. And this isn't about the health. Yeah, obviously, I've got a thing about smoking. I wish that it was against the law. I don't like to see anybody smoking for health reasons. But on top of that, I can't tell you how many times I've worked with people who are struggling financially, but yet they're smoking a pack a day or whatever it is. God, no, I don't even know what that costs, but I imagine it's probably about 10, 12 pound for a pack of cigarettes every day, adding up to 70, 80, 90 a week. But yet they're talking about how they have no money to save. For me, coffee. I sit here and I drink my coffee now, but I don't buy coffee out. I can tell you that very rarely do I go and buy a cup of coffee. Why would I it costs like $3.50 for a coffee. I'm gonna go buy a coffee when I can make a coffee at home for probably about 18 cents. It makes no sense. So I drink my coffee. I'm a big coffee lover. Anybody who knows it, that's probably one of my biggest vices. It is my biggest vice, no question about that. But I don't go on. You don't see me. You'll never see me in a Starbucks. I can tell you that much right now. Unless I'm really out and I have no other option. But it wouldn't be part of my routine. That's for sure. Or alcohol. And I say, no, look, I enjoy a drink as much as the next person, but I know it can be quite costly. Especially if you're going to the pub, a couple times a week or whatever the case may be. But how much money could you save if you just reduced or stopped consuming alcohol? And these are only suggestions, guys. I'm not judging because, trust me, I'm nobody to judge. But again, these things just to consider. But so now we've covered the first three: money in, money out, and your savings. Okay, so those are the first three of the subcategories. And then you've been given some examples of actions that you could include to determine if you qualify for that money in, or if you qualify for the money out, or if you qualify for the savings. So what do you do now that you have a bit of savings? How do you grow that money? Because that's what you need to be doing. If you just take the money and just shove it under the mattress, inflation is just going to eat it up. So what are you going to do now that you've managed to increase your money coming in, reduce your spending, you have a bit of money now off to the side where you're saving it? How do you grow it? How do you actually get it to basically become more at a faster pace than the pace of inflation? Well, what I'm going to suggest you do is we're going to use the method that Tony Robbins teaches. Tony Robbins teaches a method, and it's all about 3 buckets. But he talks about basically growing your money. He says you should consider it as 3 separate buckets. So it's all about your asset allocation, your philosophy for investing. Okay, and that's where the 3 buckets come in. So what are the 3 buckets? The first one should be referred to it as your security bucket. That's the money that you've saved that you're going to put into a secure, extremely secure investment with no risk or extremely low minimal risk of losing any money. We'll talk about some examples of that, but you've got to allocate a certain amount of your savings to that first bucket. And that first bucket, again, is your security bucket. Okay? That's what's going to produce long-term income for you into retirement and everything else. Your next one, if you want to grow your money, your next bucket is your risk bucket. Okay? Your risk bucket, depending on what stage of life you're at. Obviously, if you're an old guy like me, old woman, you're getting ready to retire, you don't want to take a whole lot of risk. But if you're a young person just getting started, well, you can afford to take more risk. Okay? But you're going to allocate a certain amount into that security. And once that money goes in that security bucket, it does not come out. Plain and simple. It's secure. It's yours. You get to keep it. But if you want to grow, well, you can afford to take some risk. I'm not saying just to be foolish with your money and invest in anything. Obviously, you want to make educated decisions, calculated decisions. But you can afford to take some risk. But that's going to produce at a much faster rate because the money in the security bucket is going to grow at a snail's pace. But the money in your risk bucket, well, those are things that you can do that will, if it goes in your favor, can produce money much faster. So you want to allocate your savings to those 2 buckets, the security and the risk. But you're saying, oh, well, Patrick, you talked about 3 buckets. Yes, there is a 3rd bucket, but the money's going to be allocated between those 2, the security and the risk, depending on how much. Like I say, if you're older, you might be putting 70% into the security bucket, and you might be allocating 30% into that risk bucket. If you're young, it might be 50-50. Or if you're very young, you might decide that I'm going to only do, 40% in the security bucket and 60% into the risk. That's a decision you have to make as far as allocating those assets. But then you have the 3rd bucket. What's the 3rd bucket? The 3rd bucket is your dream bucket. Okay? Your dream bucket is just for you. It's primarily there to go ahead and make that purchase that you want, something special, that trip you want to take, that present you want to buy yourself, that whatever the case may be, that gift you want to give, whatever the case may be. But you don't take money out of the security bucket ever to put into a dream bucket. And you do take money out of the risk bucket, but not just for taking money out, when you make a profit. So when you make a, this is the safest way to grow your money. When you put your money in that risk bucket and you go ahead and you have a win. You make an investment, you invest in cryptocurrency, and which I've done, by the way, and still do. And that's a crazy market, up and down, up and down. But you can make a lot of money fast. And let's suppose you put whatever, 500 into Bitcoin. And all of a sudden, in a short period of time, say within 60 days, that 500 is now worth 1,100, which it's done. It's gone more than that. Well, I'm going to pull some money out now. I'm going to pull my profit out. You're going to pull out that 600 profit that you made. You might leave the 500 still in there. But what are you going to do with that 600? Well, you're not going to put it all in the dream bucket. That would be foolish. What you're going to do is you're going to split it. 50% into the security bucket so you can keep growing that security bucket, and 50% into the dream bucket. But that should be the only time you put money into the dream bucket, is primarily when you've had some type of a win with the money that you've invested into your risk, your risk or your growth bucket. This is the philosophy that Tony Robbins teaches at his Money Mastery course. It's a very effective strategy. There's a lot to it, but in a nutshell, the security bucket, well, again, those are for steady and safe investments. You do not touch the money in your security bucket ever. That is there for a reason. You do not touch it. You have to be very disciplined. You never say, "Oh, I got a great stock tip, and I instead of taking, I want to put that money into my growth bucket so I can grow it. This is a big opportunity." No, you stick to the amount you allocated. If you did 50-50, you can only do 50-50. If you did 70-30, whatever the case may be, you make a committed decision and you stick to it. So those are just some ideas as far as what you could do, what type of secure investments you can be in. But again, we can spend a lot, I'm conscious of time, so we won't go into things too detail, but there are certain secure investments. And we're going to, at a later lesson, we're going to go into a lot of these in detail that you can invest in. As far as the growth bucket, again, those are the riskier things that you can do. Just various things that you can invest in. But just for an example, commodities like gold and silver, I told you that's something I used to be involved in and I still do to a degree. Currencies, you can, the foreign exchange market, it's very risky. You look at what's going on now with the economy as far as what's going on with Russia and everything else all over the place. But again, those are all things you can make a lot of money fast in, but you can lose a lot of money fast too. But that's why, you have to, evaluate the risk versus the reward. And then again, that dream bucket. So those are your three buckets. But again, you have to be disciplined. Asset allocation is the key. Make a committed decision to what you're going to do, how much you're going to allocate to each bucket from that money that you're saving. So again, maximize the money in, minimize the money going out, save everything that's left, every penny that's left, and then you take that savings, you let it acquire for a bit, and then you allocate it to your growth buckets. Again, you have your security bucket, you have your growth bucket, whenever you have a win from that growth bucket, you take a 50% and you put it in the dream bucket. You put the other 50% in your security bucket. That's how you grow your money and you get your finances, not happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight, guys. But over a period of time, I can guarantee you, if you stick to this strategy, you will get your finances in order. And your clients will thank you for providing them this advice, especially when you hold them accountable to doing exactly. So when you work out with them their finances and they allocate a certain amount, doesn't matter how much it is, if it's the percent that matters. If they only have 30 euros in their savings, well, you've allocated 50-50, 50% goes right into your savings. You don't ever touch that. The other 50% goes into your growth bucket. Okay, you don't put anything in that dream bucket until you have a win. But I'll give you a little indication. One of the things I had in my growth bucket was primarily one source. Okay, I invest in different businesses. I invest in a lot of different things. But one of the things from my growth bucket, I took a certain amount of money and I started primarily one source. Okay, now I'll never forget the very first client that I got to pay me. I didn't take that 195 euros. I didn't just take that money and say, oh, that's my money now. No, I allocated things to where they're supposed to go. But the very first thing, as a matter of fact, probably the only thing I ever bought from the money at one source, because I haven't really made a whole lot, haven't made anything yet, truthfully yet, was I bought a pair of Shady Ray sunglasses. That was it. And I did it just primarily because I wanted to have something that'd be a reminder of that first client that I got to pay me. And if you know anything about Shady Rays, they're knockoffs. They're basically a ripoff of Ray-Bans. I got 2 pairs for 25 euros, and that's what. But I didn't buy it until I had the money in my dream bucket. So again, it doesn't have to be a big reward. It could be something small, but again, it's something just for you, a gift to you. And it doesn't have to be anything big. So now what I want to do is I'm just going to stop the share for 1 second. And I'm going to reshare, but I'm going to tick the button so you guys can hear it. And I want to introduce you to somebody very quickly, because this is an individual that's going to provide some real wealth advice to you if you're interested. And I'll tell you about who he is and why he's relevant in a moment. But sorry about this.
Imagine you wake up tomorrow and you're financially free. What would you do with your time? Who would you spend your time with? What difference could you make in this world? My name's James Corsia. I grew up in a poor single mother family, and at times we struggled to even put food on the table. Life was tough, but what really hurt was seeing how much it affected my mother, constantly on the edge of bankruptcy and always stressed. Now that I'm financially free, my mission is to pass on all that I've learned. But before we understand how to become financially free, we first need to understand the money paradox. Well, actually, what we first need to understand is what a paradox is. So let's take health as an example. Let's say we want to get into shape. Everybody knows that we need to eat healthy and stay active. Simple, right? But when we go to do it, it seems so hard. So let's go back to the money paradox. It is so easy to become financially free, and yet so few do. When you look at the numbers, most people can become financially free. But when you see the statistics, very few ever get there. So why does this happen? There are many reasons, and this is at the core of what we teach. Once you are aware of them, you know how to avoid them. It is about learning the skills that will get your finances in shape in a simple, easy, and fun way. This will help you ensure you can focus on what you really want from life. And we have a simple 7-step process that will give you a clear view of where you want to get to, an easy to follow plan of how to get there, and the confidence in which to achieve it.
Okay, so James, why am I showing you this video about James? First off, he's got some amazing, really amazing information to share. But first off, I suggest you go to YouTube and you look up the Money Paradox and you subscribe to his channel. Okay, he's got 97 different videos on there, all designed to basically educate you on managing, investing in your finances. Really, really sharp individual. And the reason I know this so well is James is one of my clients. I've been working with James now for not too long, I think about 5 months. Meet with him on a weekly basis. I do the exact same things we do with the system. He's not obviously doing it becoming a joint venture partner or anything like that. He does it because it gives him value. Now, James is much more successful than I am financially. I can tell you right now, James is in his mid-30s. He owns several properties around London. He is retired, semi-retired anyway. He does certain businesses that he's involved in, but he doesn't need to work. And he does extremely well financially. He's the real deal. But he's a client of mine. And why does he do it? I'm not going to teach him anything about money, but I still hold him accountable in that area. But I work with him on all the other areas as well. His relationships, his health, his personal growth. And I make sure that he stays balanced. But James is actually went and I called him up before I made this video, this training. I says, okay, if I include you in there. And he actually volunteered to come and talk to us. So in the coming weeks, I'm going to have James come in and we're going to do, I'm not sure how we're going to do it yet, but it won't be much longer. I told him next time we have a session, which is later on this week, we're going to, it's actually Thursday, I think. I'm not sure. I got to check my calendar. But regardless, whenever we have our next session, we're going to look at our calendars and we're going to get something booked in. That because he's a big supporter of what we do here at OneSource. But you can also go to his website. He's got a bunch of information. If you go to the moneyparadox.net, that's his website. He's got a lot of really good information on there as well. One of the things you'll see on there is his testimonials. His testimonials, I know, are genuine. And I'll tell you why in a minute, why I know they're genuine. But this individual, when he met James, $2K a month is what he was making. 3.5 years later, he made $183,000 in 1 month. Okay, massive growth, all by using the principles taught from James. Adam, head of marketing of One Rebel. I don't know if any of you guys in London, if you know what One Rebel is, but it's a health facility, but I don't know the best way to describe it, but it's almost like a nightclub atmosphere. You know, a bunch of flashing lights, loud music, really intense workouts, a lot of personal trainers, a lot of activities all around the club. Really, really impressive place. But I know they've got like 4 locations in London and around the UK, but they're also in Australia and New Zealand and around the globe. I think they're in Dubai as well and some other places. But he heads up all the marketing. I personally know Adam, and the reason I know Adam is he's another one of the individuals that I work with personally. Again, he doesn't do it primarily to because he wants to be a consultant or a joint venture partner. Trust me, he doesn't need it. He does extremely well for himself. He does it because he gets value of this out of the service that we're providing here. Actually, I'll tell you a quick story, and I'm just conscious of time here, but it's worth it. I have one client, a guy by the name of Hayden. Great guy. I get on really well with him. He's been with me for quite a while now. Very young guy, successful guy, owns a bunch of properties around the UK and London, Scotland, other parts of the UK as well. Does very well for himself. He recommended James to me. Then he recommended Adam to me. Then he recommended one of the top personal trainers in London to me. All individuals that I work with privately now through one individual. But that's what you should be doing with your business. If you're creating value, like I say, none of these guys are on board because they're looking for an opportunity to earn money. They're on board because they get value for the service that we provide with our system. But another individual, if you go onto his website, you'll see he has a ton of different testimonials. And I can guarantee you, I know James personally, they're all genuine. Everything about James is genuine. So I'm looking forward to getting James in here. Either I'll do an interview with him, or we'll do a Q&A, or maybe we'll hand it over to him and he'll do a training. I'm not sure how we're going to do it yet, but James will be in the coming weeks, and I would encourage everyone to come and take part in that. And again, he's got a wealth of knowledge behind him. He knows what he's doing. Trust me, I know him personally. He definitely knows what he's doing. So other than that, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Went a little bit over today, so I do apologize about that. But look, hopefully you guys got something out of this session. It's something that you can incorporate into your business, into your life. And again, when you're working with clients, you can add more value. That is an area that I've identified that people are kind of struggling with. So other than that, questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out. Other than that, thanks for coming, and I will see you all next week. Okay, all the best, everyone.